I hope Todd's on his way.
Manicure appointment, check.
We got some parties to hit.
Spray tan appointment, check.
I hope he's ready.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to crash the party.
What could he be doing?
Bruno is ready to crash the party.
Oh boy.
The question is, Nate, are you ready to crash the party?
And welcome to Crash the Party. My name is Nate Game, and this is the kickoff episode, you may say premiere episode of my interview series that I'm starting tonight. And when I was going through folks that I was hoping I could get to join me for this episode, the person that I actually knew has crashed the party a few times in his career is the one that joined me. He is a TV personality, a game show host. He was a radio DJ, a nightclub DJ, an author, a podcaster. He's a father. He is an advocate for animals. And he's probably a better person than all that stuff. And who would I be talking about other than the host with the most himself? That would be Todd Newton, and let me bring him in.
Good to see you, man. What an honor to be here for your foray into the world of solo interviews. This is quite a thrill.
Yeah, never done it before, and I figured, hey, who better to do it with than the person that seems to have done it all when it comes to entertainment outside of movies, right?
I will. Yeah, no movies for me. I was in an HBO movie once. I got my SAG card. I played a news anchor. That was quite a stretch.
Well, so you have it all covered then.
Sitting there reading the teleprompter. It was quite a departure from what I normally do. But yeah, man, this is great. And Friday night, this is really cool. Yeah, let's tear it up here. What can I do for you? Can I get you anything to eat? Shoulder rub? What is it you're looking for here tonight, Nate?
Hey, Carl, you didn't tell me he was going to bring me food and the shoulder rub. Oh, he put it in the contract? Okay. It
was in the template.
I guess we'll deal with that after the show.
Yes.
In the Crash the Party green room.
Yes, sure.
So,
yeah. Absolutely.
Excellent. So, yeah, as I mentioned, you've been someone that has been known to quote unquote crash the party. So I felt like this would be a good fit to kick things off. And let me go back a little bit, just a little bit, and ask you first off, how long have you been in entertainment?
Well, I it's really all I've ever done. I mean, when I was 16 years old, I delivered pizzas for a little while. But when I was growing up in St. Louis, we had a little local rag. Every city has one. It's that free newspaper that tells you what concerts are coming to town and what bars are running 2-for-1 specials. And then if you go all the way to the back, it'll, tell you all about the massage parlors. And in St. Louis, ours was called the Riverfront Times. And I remember being about 17 years old and thumbing through the Riverfront Times, and I was back in the classified ads, and I saw a little 1-inch by 1-inch ad, and all it said was MC wanted for area nightclub. And in St. Louis, we're right on the banks of the Mississippi River, and just on the other side of the Mississippi is Illinois. And the bars can stay open till 6 a.m. in Illinois. In Missouri, they can only stay open till 1 or 2, whatever it was. So it was an Illinois area code. So I called it, and I had to ask my mom and dad's permission. Obviously, there were no cell phones at the time. It was long distance. And the woman at the other end of the line, she invited me in for an interview, and so I went in, and I'm pretty sure I was the only person that showed up because they hired me to be the house DJ. As you mentioned, that's where I started in nightclubs, and at the time I didn't know how to beat mix. I didn't know the difference between 100 beats per minute and 140 beats per minute. I just thought, well, I know this song from the radio. Let me just throw this on. But it was it was called the Oz nightclub in St. Louis. And for many years in the late 80s, early 90s, it was kind of our Studio 54. It was where the good looking people went, and they would cross the
Well,
river and go over there. And
it's pretty
uh,
obvious why you were there then, right?
yeah, well, I
I
mean, that
mean,
was the prerequisite. I mean, please. I mean, it's only gotten better over the years too, Nate. I mean, really.
well,
But
well,
yeah, so that was the beginning. You learn a lot in nightclubs, especially when you're 17 years old. And I just knew once I heard my voice on that microphone for the first time that I wasn't going to be doing anything else. No way.
so let me stop you for a second because I feel like you knew before that. Because a little bird told me that you actually told your mom when you were 12 years old that you were going to be in entertainment and that you were going to
Well,
make it.
yeah, well, I come from a little bit of a show business family. My grandfather on my dad's side was a radio personality, and my grandmother on my mom's side was an entertainer. So I knew that I enjoyed watching them make people happy and make people enjoy themselves and be the life of the party, so to speak. And I always enjoyed listening to the guys on the radio that created that theater of the mind, for lack of a better terminology. I really enjoyed that form of entertainment. And all of this kind of came together at the age of 12 and 13 while I was watching Johnny Carson at night or Bob Barker during the day, guys that were entertaining millions of people just by being themselves. So, yeah, I knew before I even knew conceptually what a host was. I had no idea what that term meant. I knew that I wanted to be on television or at the very least on the radio, but I never wanted to be an actor. I just kind of wanted to be that exaggerated version of myself. And, fortunately, it panned out because I never gave myself a plan B or a safety net. It was kind of full speed ahead into this.
And I've heard a few stories regarding not having a plan B. One coming right out of the nightclub scene. You started working for, was it Hot 97
Hot
right after that?
97 was, yeah, yeah, that
And
was, yeah.
I actually heard a little story about something happening late at night at Hot 97 that actually thrust you right into the mix
Well,
with
yeah, Hot 97 was a top 40 radio station in St. Louis that I got an internship through. Um, I had been trying for 3 or 4 semesters to get a job at the campus radio station at the University of Missouri. It was a really cool jazz station, but they wouldn't hire me. So, I just went out and I got my own internship at Hot 97, and they put me on as what they called the board operator, the person that controlled the what was going out over the air, but not speaking. And after 3 or 4 months of that, I guess I just got tired of sitting there in the middle of the night staring at that microphone, and knowing that speaking to the masses was just a push of a little red button away. So, at the urging of our morning radio personality, who like to come in and kind of go all out, he said, "Listen, if this is what you want to do it." It's the old get permission or get forgiveness rather than permission. And so we did that, and I think it was cheaper to keep me and put me on the air than it was to fire me, I guess. So that's kind of how it started. Just kind of being around all these great, at the time, St. Louis was a great radio town. It's always been a great rock and roll town, and the radio certainly reflected that. And just being around all of these really talented on-air personalities, you kind of absorb that kind of thing over time.
So that was the birth of Rick Idle.
That
Is
was
that true?
it. That
And
was it. Yeah.
a little bit of a longer hair, Todd Newton, a little
Well,
more feisty, it looked like back then, maybe.
there was a lot of hair. There was a guy on MTV at the time. named Adam Curry, who eventually went on, they call him the Podfather now. He's one of the innovators of this podcasting phenomenon that we're all enjoying so very much. But Adam was a really talented VJ. He was a Dutch guy that had just a touch of the accent, and would come in and just really really entertain. The ladies loved him. He had the long hair, the biker jacket. So I thought, listen, if it's working there, it'll probably work here. So whatever I saw Adam Curry doing on MTV, I tried to emulate there in the STL, as they call it now, I suppose.
Yeah, and I saw a couple clips, and you definitely had the energy for it. So it wasn't
Yeah.
going to be for lack of energy that you kept getting pushed into things,
No,
from what I could
no,
see.
no. It was, it was great. I just, I really believe that I think there's room for everybody in this, and if it wasn't going to happen in St. Louis, I was going to try and make it someplace else. Obviously, I wanted it to be in my hometown. And I think I finally got on the radio full time. I want to say 1990, 1991. And I was there, I think our whole radio station was killing it. And then I left in 95 to go out to Los Angeles to work on E-Entertainment.
Well, there was a little bit of another story in there where you crashed another party. You got sent out to do junket some junket work out there, and
Yeah.
you had a little travel money left, and from my understanding, you said, "Screw it. I'm gonna get in a cab and go and talk to some producers and make someone listen to me. Even if they say
Well,
no, they're gonna listen to what I have to say." And that's maybe how you kinda got put into the E-entertainment area. Is that accurate?
yeah. Yeah, somewhat accurate. Yeah, yes. It's I think I was more naive than brave, but there's a certain a certain power that comes from being naive, and not knowing any better. But yes, so the television station that I was doing a little bit of work for in St. Louis flew me out to Los Angeles to interview some of the sitcom stars that were on the shows that nobody was watching, and they weren't huge stars, but it was exciting for me. I'd never been to Los Angeles, and I took the one VHS tape of the little television work that I had with me, and I was staying at right next door to a very tall brown building with gold numbers on the front, big gold numbers. 33 Universal City Plaza was the address, which ironically is where the new E-Entertainment Studios are now. But at the time, those that building housed MTV. And I knew it was MTV because I had been sending my materials to that very address to try to get on that reality show, Real World, if you remember that show from
Mhm.
the 90s. So I couldn't believe it. I thought, I'm right next door to MTV. So, like you said, I said, screw it. And I think if I recall correctly, the interview that I blew off was with Sean and Marlon Wayans. And I listen, the
A
world was,
couple of guys that didn't do a whole lot, right?
well,
Holy
the world was gonna survive. Their careers were gonna do just fine if this guy from St. Louis didn't interview them. They were gonna be all right. So I went over to MTV, and I remember asking the receptionist, "Who do I speak to about becoming a VJ?" I just thought that was the natural progression from where I was. Again, 21, 22 years old. She told me to have a seat, and about 10 minutes later, a gentleman comes out, calls me back to his office, pops in my VHS tape and watches it all the way through. Wonderful guy by the name of Kurt Sharp, who went on to really do some incredible things at NBC. And he said, "Well, I can't just hire you. You got to have some representation." Well, I didn't know what that meant. So he picked up the phone and he called three agents. The first one said, "Well, send this tape over. I'll look at it." And of course, I said, "I can't do that. This is the only one I've got." The second agent said, "I'm not hiring any, I'm not taking on any new clients." And the third one said, "Well, I just had a lunch meeting cancel. If he can come over right now, I'm happy to meet him." So I remember Kurt said, "Listen, here are the directions. It's going to cost you about $40 to get over there." Well, the television station had given me $100, and I had it in my pocket. And sure enough, he was right. It was about $40 to get over there. I tipped the driver $5. I met with the agent. She was great, and she signed me. She was young and hungry and looking to kind of build up her roster, and she took a chance on me. I had just enough money to get back to my hotel. And a few months later, I was out in Los Angeles again. She had booked me a pilot for Maury Povich, who at the time was looking to find the male Ricky Lake. Ricky Lake was the biggest thing in daytime television, and he was looking to find the male version of Ricky. We did the pilot. It didn't go anywhere. It wasn't very good. I've seen it since. But while I was in LA, I was taking other meetings. That's what you do. You kind of jam in as many meet and greets as you can before any paperwork is signed, and then you can't do it anymore. And one of those meetings was with E Entertainment. It was a much smaller network at the time. But when the Maury Povich deal fell through, E made me an offer. It was initially, I believe, a 4-year deal. And that 4 years turned into 13. And it was outstanding. It was great.
Yeah. So when you were at E, you did a lot of red carpet work.
Yeah.
You got to work with Joan Rivers, correct? On
Yeah.
some of those.
Yeah.
How was that? How was working with Joan? That's a big time name.
Joan, well, I don't think they come any bigger. Joan was absolutely incredibly generous with her experience and accommodating and patient with us younger hosts. She was relatively new to the red carpet too. That was something that she had never done. So when I started at E, there were only a few hosts on the network. And when we would go to the Academy Awards or the Grammys or the Emmys and do these red carpet events, there were only a few outlets there, us, Entertainment Tonight, maybe Extra, CNN, maybe. It wasn't like it is today. So we would get considerable time with these celebrities as they made their way down the red carpet. And Joan really, in my opinion anyway, revolutionized the red carpet, made it an event, and certainly brought a lot of stars over to our network because they knew that Joan had a lot of eyes on her. So that was wonderful. What I learned most from Joan was how to prepare and how to, there's a word, sprezzatura. I've actually got it tattooed on me right here. It's sprezzatura is essentially working hard to make something difficult look easy. Rehearsed spontaneity. There is no spontaneity in television. There's too much on the line. So we work very hard. All hosts do. You worked very hard on this show. You worked very hard to have all of this stuff ready to go, to be locked and loaded, to create conversation, to establish rapport. That's one of the things that I learned from Joan. Put a lot of effort into something that's very difficult in order to make it look very simple. David Letterman was a master of that. Everything looked spontaneous and off the cuff with David Letterman, and it wasn't. He's notorious for the prep he put in and the rehearsals and the pressure he put on his staff. So that was probably my biggest takeaway from Joan. And, I've carried that with me since. The fun thing about Talk Soup was you had so many personalities involved. We had Tom McNamara, the stage manager, and Alan Wu, and all the camera guys got involved. Like I said, nothing was off limits. And that was the great thing about E at the time. You were really allowed to fall on your face and not suffer any repercussions as a result. It was a great way to learn. And I think as long as we showed the professional responsibility of not repeating something that didn't work, there were no consequences of making a mistake on the air. And that was invaluable to all of us. And at the time, there were only, I think, 4 or 5 hosts on the network. So we got to do every show. And now it's grown exponentially, and they bring a lot of outside programming in. But those were wonderful times, man. I mean, a very key part of my career, which, gave me exposure to go in other directions as well. So I'm super grateful to E. That was really a special run.
Yep. Not just exposure because you wore a pair of tidy whities outside of your khakis, but actual exposure as
Yeah.
you as a personality on
Well,
TV.
that those must have been a prop, Nate, because I would never stoop so low and to wear such a basic, unmentionable as a tidy whitey. Come
I
on.
mean, there's no sound. I could still show the video portion that shows that it's true, but
Oh,
I think the
I
viewers,
listen.
if
I
they
don't.
if they want to validate it, they can go check it out
I'm not
themselves.
disputing it. I'm not disputing it at all.
But so you were with E till about 2007, but in the meantime, you started picking up a new passion, and
Yeah.
you actually found what you really love to do, which was hosting some game shows.
Yeah, I was introduced to game shows in 1999. The first one I hosted was a show called Hollywood Showdown on Game Show Network, produced by a man named Sandy Stewart. And Sandy and his father are game show royalty. His father, Bob Stewart, together they created so many great, well-known games. $64,000 Pyramid, Password, To Tell the Truth. I mean, it was, I mean, to be able to work with this man was pretty incredible. And to get the nod from him and the opportunity, I soon realized that game shows incorporated everything I loved about television into one nicely wrapped little package. The live aspect, um, I think doing it in one take is the least we can try to do. I think if you're really passionate about what you do for a living, you should want to do it right the first time and never rely on editing or post production. And game shows are like that, with standards and practices. You can't keep doing it over and over. The outcome is the outcome. So you want it to be pretty good the first time. Being in front of a live audience has always been exciting for me. That's kind of been my forte over the years, and more than anything else, presenting people with money and prizes, things that they not only want but things that they need, and that's the real joy of being a game show host. When you present somebody with $5,000, it may not sound like a lot in today's television world, but that 5 grand might cover the mortgage for a few months. It might get you out of debt. It might, get the car repaired that's been clunking up and down the street. It can be significant to a lot of people. A new refrigerator may be something that a family has needed for a very long time and hasn't been able to justify the expense. A vacation might be something that people have been wanting to take, or just not been able to. I once presented a trip to Las Vegas to a woman named Helen from Montana. Helen had just retired from the Postal Service when she came on our show. And when she won that trip to Las Vegas, she was crying. And she told me during the commercial that not only had she never been to Las Vegas, but she had never been on an airplane before. Everything she had ever done had been for the benefit of her children or her grandchildren. And now, she said she loved playing online poker on her iPad, but now she was going to get to go to Vegas with her best friend. And those are magical moments. Game shows are the only, for the most part, most game shows are the only real form of reality television out there. So when you can really latch on to that authenticity, it's something special. And I was able to recognize that um, pretty early on. So I really started focusing all my attentions in that direction.
Yeah, and I had heard somewhere that you work to put yourself in the position of the contestant as well, so that when their excitement would kick in or their despair if they lost, that you would feel the same thing, which I think is very actually important
Yeah.
because you could be disconnected as a host to some of those games knowing that you don't know the outcome and you just kind of
Yeah.
go with the
Well,
flow a little bit. But
yeah, and I like it to when you have children, when you have children, you start to see Christmas through their eyes, and all of a sudden Christmas is really cool again. Or you start to see birthdays and it becomes exciting again. And I'm lucky, especially with the Price is Right stage show, which you'll see when we come to Columbus. I get to do that almost every night when we're out on tour. And I don't take it for granted. But for the contestant, it's a once in a lifetime experience. I mean, they're never again going to get on that stage and spin that wheel or play Plinko. So when I host the game through the eyes, or at the very least, the mindset of the contestants, it makes it all the more special for me. I can feel their nervousness, their excitement, all of it. It all comes together because for most people, when you get up on a stage and, in Columbus, we get to play at the beautiful Palace Theater, which I'm sure you've been there, gorgeous 3,000 seater. If you've never been in front of 3,000 people before, it can really throw you off your game. But when you can channel that energy into something, you know, when you realize that all these people are here for you and cheering for you and invested in you and want you to win, then it becomes something special. And I just hope it's a feeling that I hope, in addition to any prize they may win, that they can really kind of press record and play on that sensation that's happening in their chest and mind, and remember that, because there really is no other rush that compares.
Yeah. I could see that too. Like you can see it with the reactions. Actually, one of the pictures in the intro, you can see she had hit the
Yeah.
$1 on the wheel. You could see how excited she was.
Yeah.
Um, what was the path for you to get into that aspect of the game shows with the live with Price is Right? Was there something that happened that got you connected with that?
Well, I was hosting a show back in 2000, 2001. I was hosting a show called Whammy, the new Press Your Luck. And Whammy is produced by Fremantle Media, which also produces Price is Right and Let's Make a Deal and Match Game and all these great Family Feud. Um, Let's Make a Deal. Did I say Let's Make a Deal? But all these classic games. And they had come up with a concept in association with Bob Barker to create a live version of The Price is Right. And the concept behind it was, according to Bob, we want to bring a little bit of Hollywood to people that may not get to come to Hollywood themselves. And I think we did the big wheel, we did Plinko, and just one cliffhangers, the mountain climber, and maybe one other game, the showcase at the end of the show, uh, to do in a casino in Reno, Nevada. And it was only supposed to be for a couple of weeks. Well, Bob Barker is not a huge casino guy. It's just not his thing. It wasn't then. It certainly isn't now. And I had been kind of working with Bob. He had really been kind enough to, I would go to tapings of The Price is Right 2 or 3 days a week, and we would spend a little bit of time after the show kind of recapping some of the contestants. Would I have done anything differently? What did I see here and there? And just, really him sharing his experience with me. And when this came about, Bob said, "Well, put this kid in. He knows the games. I've been working with this guy, and we just thought it was going to be 2 weeks. And I had a new son at home. My son was, I mean, an infant, weeks old. So for me to go away for a couple of weeks was kind of a big deal. And here we are, 19 years later, man, and the show is bigger and better than any of us could have ever imagined. I mean, who would have thought it would have become this touring thing? We went from playing casinos and here and there to we got a 6 month residency in Las Vegas at Bally's Casino. And from there, we realized that it was something successful. So we partnered with Live Nation, and now we tour like a band. And we go back out on tour. We started in the Washington D.C. area, August 27th at the beautiful MGM Casino up there, and we'll do 3 nights there, and then it's off on the tour. So we'll go straight through middle of December.
Well, it kind of looks like Bob got a bigger dream than maybe even he even thought when he put that out there,
Yeah, well, I know
taking
I
prices
certainly
right there.
did. Yeah. Yeah, I certainly did, and I try to, I try to deliver that true Price is Right experience. This show, as much of a rush that I get out of it, I know that none of those people are there to see me. Those people are there to win prizes and play the games that they've loved on television for over 40 years. And since we're produced by by the same people, all the set pieces are the same, all the music is the same, the games are the same, the prizes are real. Everyone in the audience has an equal shot to get called down. It's done by randomizing software from everyone 18 and over that is there. And people win real prizes, cars and trips and money, and it's great. I mean, truthfully, and I've made no secret about this. I I enjoy that more than any television project I've ever done. It's such a unique experience for someone to be able to be a part of that show. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, essentially anyone that can get a ticket is available, so you get probably a lot more
Yeah.
kinda real America feel with these live shows than you would with the one out in
Oh,
California.
yeah, I mean, yeah, there's no contestant screening or anything like that. I mean, when you're doing a TV show, you gotta, it's not rigged, but they do look for television friendly contestants. I mean, there's no secret about that. But with our show, because we're charging admission, you got some legal issues there. Everybody has to have an equal shot. There is no screening, and this randomizing software. It's pretty interesting to see. It spits out the names of the contestants less than 5 minutes before the curtain comes up. So it's the real deal. And since we're not limited to an hour, and since we don't have any commercial breaks, we're able to call more people down to contestants row, play a few more games than they're able to on television. And I like to think we give people more bang for their buck.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, the description holds all of his links, including a link to The Price is Right Live, so you guys can see what towns he's going to, and I think you told me the ones that are on the website, you would be the host for those.
Yeah, I'm hosting pretty much most of them through. I think I host the first 3 months through November 7th or 8th, and then another host steps in to kind of wrap it up the last month or so. But look, it's like the guy that's coming in is a guy named Mark L. Wahlberg, who does a really good job. He's done his fair share of game shows too. So regardless of who's up on that stage, it's about the game, and it certainly delivers.
And before we move on, you're very modest, and I appreciate that from you. But I have seen photos where there are some fans that do come out to see Mr. Todd Newton wearing the hot toddies and the
The hot
Todd Hotties
toddies.
shirts.
Yeah, the
And
hot
so,
toddies. The hot toddies are this wonderful group of ladies that have come to see it started off. There were just two ladies, and but this show makes a great girls' night out, or a mom's night out, or a bachelorette party. And I think it started as just two or three, young ladies that watched the show in college. Well, now these girls are mothers, and they've stayed friends, and they make shirts that say the hot toddies, and they come to see us, and they're in the Midwest, so they'll meet us in their hometown, and then we might be in Milwaukee or Madison, Kansas City, and they'll follow us 3 or 4 cities, which is kind of neat. It's nice. I mean, that's a lot of time invested and money that they're spending. So it's cool that they're that into it, and it's good for the old ego. Any radio person will tell you that once you've been on the air, once you've heard your voice coming through, those speakers, it never really leaves you. And there were guys that really influenced me John Landecker, Gary Records Brown, Wolfman Jack, of course. Locally in St. Louis, we had the Nasty Man and Gentleman Jim Gates and Jimmy Page, the Nighttime Rage. All these guys are just so good. A lot of great female talent too in St. Louis. But I moved to television, obviously, because I wanted to be on TV. TV money is better than radio money, and it was, but when I started to see the introduction of this digital medium and guys like Adam Carolla, who also come from a radio background, were pouncing on it, and Adam has mastered it, as has Joe Rogan and Mark Maron. These guys have really mastered the 3 or 4 hour length format. I just thought to myself, well, wait a minute, there's no reason why podcasting would not replace everything else. With streaming music services like Apple Music and Spotify, SoundCloud, Sirius satellite radio, and now podcasting, FM radio is all but dead. And I've said that a couple of times. I think I said it with you and Oz, and I caught some blowback from some of my radio friends. But listen, let's be honest. There's zero reason why a listener, and time is our most precious commodity. There's no reason why, if I've got an hour drive ahead of me, I should have to listen to 18 minutes of commercials. When I can just, connect my Bluetooth and listen to a playlist that I set up, or listen to satellite, or listen to 4 or 5 of my favorite podcasts. So with the Host with the Most podcast, I really sat down and thought about, how did I want to do this? And I realized that I would be most successful doing what I do best, which is interviewing and interacting with another person, and being one of a handful of podcasts that someone subscribes to. Analytics in the podcast world show that if somebody's listening to a podcast on their way to work and they get out to run into Starbucks and then jump back in the car, they're going to go to another podcast more often than not. So my podcasts are weekly, once a week, leaves you plenty of time for all your other shows, and we're 30 minutes. You can hear the entire conversation that I have with someone in that block. This week on the Host with the Most, we have Courtney Six, who's married to Nikki Six from Motley Crue, and she's known as the how-to girl. She's an influencer in that do-it-yourself space, crafty space, and her following is massive. The show was awesome. Last week, we did a show on Bitcoin, and every topic is something or someone that interests me. And then I think, well, will my listeners be interested in? And if it is, then I try to get a show together to put on the air. But Bitcoin is something, I've heard about it. I've read a little bit about it. I really don't know what the hell it is. Can I spend it? Can I, where do I get it? Is it like having gold bars in a safe deposit? I didn't know. So I went on YouTube and I found this guy named Nate Martin from this organization called 99 Bitcoins, who just knows everything there is to know about Bitcoin and has a really good way of making me not feel stupid by asking these questions. And it was 30 minutes of all the questions that I imagine other people to have. So it's it's fun. And over the course of the pandemic, everybody's been available and accessible via Zoom, either straight Zoom or through one of the streaming sites like you're using here. And so I've gotten some really cool people on there, and I enjoy it. And you start to see a little jingle in your pocket. I'm not one of those shows that would ever charge a subscription service. But there are 2 commercials at the top, 2 of them in the middle, so you're looking at 2 minutes of commercials instead of 18, and you're getting straight chat content with zero regulations, no FCC oversight, nobody telling me how long a show has to be or what I have to talk about. It's all me. So I'm really enjoying that. And that's something that I want to keep on rolling.
Yep, absolutely. The other venture you got into in 2012 was becoming an author. You have put 3 books out. since that point, and you have obviously the newest one is matched up with your podcast, the host with the most, the journey of the tattooed.
Tales of a Tattooed Television Personality.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was a tongue twister for me.
Yeah.
And so I didn't try learning that one. I figured you would help me out with that.
Well, the first book is called Life in the Bonus Round, and it's 100% autobiographical. Things that I've learned career wise and just about being a human being over the course of my 51 years, 40 something at the time. But it started off as a journal that I wanted to keep and fill the pages with things that I wanted to tell my kids, places I'd been, when I was on tour, things that I did that perhaps they were too young to understand or care about. You can't sit down with a 5-year-old and tell them about, something you saw in Wichita, Kansas. They're just not going to care. But as I was writing this journal, I found myself writing it in story form. And I thought, well, let me do this. Let me try and tweak and let me devote X amount of time every day to writing. I think that's really the way you have to do it. You have to treat writing like a job. I'm finishing up another piece now, and every morning it's 90 minutes. And sometimes what I get is great. Sometimes what I get is junk. But I try to really put it into storybook form, and make it an autobiographical journey. And the first book did really well, and the host with the most is the follow up, and both of them have won a couple of little awards, which tells me I'm kind of going in the right direction. But most importantly, I've decided about 3 or 4 years ago that we're going to donate all the proceeds from those books to animal rescue organizations across the country. My kids and I are very active with animal rescues. All of our animals are rescues, and with books, unless you're a New York Times bestseller, you're not going to get rich. So let's put the money where it can do some good. I'd rather know that 7 or 8 dogs found homes last month as a result of these books than to have, a couple extra bucks in my pocket. So, yeah, it's been great. And I just finished a play, my first play, which we'll try to get into production next year. We were kind of set to rock and roll with that in February of last year, and then everything got kind of put on halt, but it's there. So I've been tweaking that throughout the pandemic. So that's a nice kind of branch of the tree to go off onto. So yeah, it's a nice creative outlet. It's very peaceful and therapeutic too,
Yeah, and before we get into hopefully a couple questions from the chat, see if I can pick the brains of a couple of the viewers here. So you have an event next week that's a virtual event, and I actually saw it on Twitter that you were promoting it. And if you could tell us a little more about that.
Sure. Yeah. So next week I'll be in Chicago for this event, for this organization, this center, the National Center for Family Resiliency, and this is a pretty cool place that provides legal help, psychological help, sometimes assistance in finding shelter, clothing for families that have been torn apart by divorce or loss of a job, the loss of a spouse or a parent. Those are all moments in one's life where you really don't know where to go or what to do. None of us, I mean, I'm a divorced man, but as amicable as my divorce was, there's really no such thing as an easy divorce. Even an easy divorce is a tough divorce. But this center has helped not only single parents, but also the kids. So when they asked me to come to Chicago and host this virtual event, I of course said yes, and we've got some great musical guests. Actually, my guest on the Host with the Most podcast next week is the guest that's going to be at the show. Her name is Deanna Bogart. She's this incredibly talented sax player and female blues singer, and she plays a lot of theaters and festivals. And when you see her play a festival, man, just she's up there with that saxophone, and you just imagine the sun going down, and you got a couple of cold beers in your hand, and you're just getting lost in that vibe. Well, she uh, is very open about her relationship with the center. They helped her when she was going through a pretty tough time, and she's been there for them the whole time. So they're celebrating their 30th anniversary. And yeah, if you go to my Twitter, which is at Todd Newton, you can get tickets for this. It's a virtual event a week from tomorrow night. The 26th, I believe the date is, and it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be pretty special, and it'll do a lot of good for a lot of people.
Yep. Todd's Twitter's in the description. I'll add the link for that show as well after we're done here.
Thanks, man.
But let's see if we can spitfire through a couple of these from the chat. We've got one from Susan Skeptics Turpin. What's Todd's favorite tattoo that he's got on his own person, not somebody else's person that you got
On my
tattooed
person. Um, Boy, let's see. My favorite. I guess I guess my favorite would be my first one, which is right up here. It's my kids' names, because that first tattoo has a lot of emotions with it. You're finally swinging the bat on something that you've been thinking about for a long time. And I remember we were doing the show in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and after the show one night, I kind of sauntered down to this. It was everything you want a grimy Jersey tattoo parlor to be. The place it's gone now, but it was called Hot Rod Tattoo,
Oh,
in
that sounds perfect.
a bad part of town, right in the middle of the strip joints and the pawn shops and the check
Mhm.
cashing joints. I think there was back then, I think there was even a beeper store or two not too far, but I went in and I remember the tattoo artist's name was Doc. And that's all he
Mhm.
said was Doc. And there was no paperwork. It was just pick something on the wall and what do you want? So that one, that one's been great. But I've been tattooed in a lot of places around the world, which is kind of cool. France, Japan, and the Netherlands, and uh, Thailand. So those have stories. But don't let anybody fool you. Not every tattoo has a story. Sometimes they were just something you thought looked cool that you wanted to get on your body before the tour bus rolled out.
Yep. So, next question here we had from Secular Rarity. What is the play you are working on about?
It's called Yeah, yeah, of course. This one's called First and Last Month, and it's about three friends from the Midwest, based, of course, on people that I knew growing up, that relocate to the big city to pursue their dreams. And what they find along the way is that the big city ain't always what it's cracked up to be. Sometimes the real magic happens with what you got right here in the here and now. And they discover that, when they leave their big places in the Midwest, and they're three guys to an apartment in New York City. But we like to say that they find a lot about love, friendship, and laughter along the way. But First and Last Month is what it's called. And we've got an incredible director attached to it. And what we're going to do is start it off at a small theater in Hollywood. And then from there, take it up the West Coast to the Pearl District in Oregon and try to do a couple of weeks there. And it's something that I'd like to do a different city every month or 6 weeks, and just really, really rock and roll with it. But it was exciting, during the audition process initially, and we'll be doing it all over again because everyone's moved on in a year and a half. But in that audition process, to see your words come to life was really kind of cool, and to see, uh, you give these characters personalities of people that mean something to you, and to hear the words coming out of a complete stranger and to see them nailing it was
Mhm.
pretty awesome. So I'm excited for that.
Yep. See, I think we got at least one more. So, black female atheist question for Todd. Do you feel the most fulfilled in your life as it is right now? And if no, what more do you see yourself doing?
Yes, this is the best things have ever been. I've been busier than I am today. It's not about that for me. There have been years where I've made really great money. It's not about that. But right now, um, everything from the house I live in to the fact that I can travel to my relationship with my kids. They're at the age where they're like young adults now. And that's kind of cool because we can actually go somewhere and I'm not worried about them, getting kidnapped or wandering off, or those. It's weird, those days are all gone. Like just today, my daughter and I, once a month, we go get our nails done together. We get Manny's petties, we call it paws and claws. We get our paws and claws done together. And we have real conversations. It's not like a parent child conversation anymore. It's two people talking about real stuff. So this is it. I mean, this is exactly what I've wanted since I was in my 20s. I'm really content here, super fulfilled, Black female atheist, super fulfilled. And it's only going to get better, especially with the way our industry is going with streaming. My goal is to build my YouTube channel, monetize that a little bit, keep the podcast going, perfect that, continue getting great guests, and just have as many Tito's and sodas by the beach while I watch the sun go down as I possibly can.
Yep. So we got one more from the chat and then one from me, and then we'll send you out before I get charged overtime on the contract here.
Yeah.
But we've got Donna Badgero.
Uh-huh.
This is an interesting question. Who disappointed you most of all the celebrities that you've met?
Well, first of all, let me tell you who my favorite celebrity to interview, the best celebrity, Kevin Costner, hands down, the best. And if you haven't watched him in the new show Yellowstone, it's the best show on television. You got 3 seasons to catch up on. He's brilliant. Show is brilliant. Kevin Costner is the best. My least favorite, Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones. I wasn't pausing there. I was choking on my Snapple. But Tommy Lee Jones is just he's a very introverted guy. And he doesn't care for being interviewed. Therefore, he's not happy to see you when you interview him, and he makes it a little tough. He didn't disappoint me. I mean, I'm there doing a job, he's doing a job. We're all going to get paid and go home that night. But Tommy Lee Jones was my least favorite. Robin Williams was another great one. Rest his soul. Jim Carrey, these guys that, there are some interviews that you can drive like a car, man. You can pull them right into the driveway and put it in park. You know exactly where it's going to go. But there are others like Robin Williams and Jim Carrey that you just kind of have to hope that you can push in a certain direction. But yeah, Tommy Lee Jones was the least favorite, but there were so many, man. Tommy Lee Jones was my father's roommate. Was your father Al Gore? I know Tommy Lee Jones and Al Gore were roommates. Al Gore was another fun one to interview. But yeah, so that's the answer to that one.
So the last question of the night, you're on Crash the Party.
Uh-huh.
There's been some examples where you've quote unquote crashed the party yourself. For those that are listening, what advice would you give to those folks that might be a little nervous about doing something like that, but feel like they should be doing something more?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've always been a pedal to the metal, balls to the wall kind of guy. I've always known what I wanted. And if I wanted something bad enough, there's no way I could live with the regret of not giving it everything I had. So whether it was popping the microphone on that radio station when I didn't have the authorization to do so, whether it was, taking a chance by going to MTV that day, you have to do it. You have to do it. Win, lose, or draw, you have to do it. Because I will tell you, I started doing all this when I was 19 years old. I'm 51 now, and it's gone by in a flash, And I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if I hadn't taken chances, if I'd played it safe. And that's what I tell my kids. And if I feel comfortable saying it to my children, I'll say it to anyone. You know, you have got to be the loudest, the rowdiest, the most vocal and boisterous one in the room. Because if there's someone louder than you, they're the one that's going to get noticed and heard. And a lot of times that's where the opportunities go. So, you know, you really, you know, at the end of it all, man, you know, whenever my road comes to an end, and I hope it's not for a very long time, but I hope that people just look back on shows like this one, or on the YouTube channel, or listen to the podcast and see the smile on my face, hear the smile in my voice, and just think, you know, man, that's a guy that had a hell of a time. And that's, at the end, that's all that matters. It's not the money, it's not the women, you know, the guys, whatever. It's not the cars, the boats. Just got to have a good time, man. That's it. And here you and I are. We both have great heads of hair. Listen, what more could we ask for?
Well, you got my rescue dog excited with your answer.
Yeah,
I don't know if you heard her. Onyx got a little bit feisty on us here.
Yeah.
But for everyone that's watching, either live or watching this back, all of Todd's links will be in the description for you. And Todd, you've been magnificent to work with this past week, going through stuff. You've been completely open to whatever I wanted to do. Saw some folks a little upset that we didn't get into a little bit more of a roast fest, but I feel like these shows are important too, because no matter how much we try to entertain or do things that we hope are helping people, sometimes just talking through some stuff can do that too. So
yeah, you only get one go around, man. You know, you got to enjoy it, and I wish you much success with Crash the Party. It was truly an honor for me to be your kickoff guest. So thank you, and do it to it. And I love that secular rarity. Todd Newton made me do it. I think that might be my next tattoo.
Todd Newton merch coming up.
Yeah, baby. I feel
Todd made me do it on a shirt coming soon to an internet store near you. Again, thanks again, Todd. Been fantastic. Looky there. And let me send us out here, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Just wanna be a mini me. All these just wanna be a mini me. Friend of me.
This young guy. Who is
Oh,
this
look
guy?
at that dashing young fella, huh?
Oh, man. That's when you dyed your hair? Or
No,
no, that's all natural. Okay.
Yeah, you're looking. I mean, that's almost 25 years ago now, man.
Holy moly. Well, I'm gonna watch a little bit of this, and I'm sure you'll remember this show. It was a pretty exciting one, from what I could see here.
That chiseled jawline is just outstanding, isn't it?
Hold on, they're saying there's no sound.
Yeah, I
Let me
couldn't hear
redo
it.
this.
Yeah.
Hold on. If I click this, it's gotta be sound, because the sound actually makes most of this happen. So it was soft in our ears, but needless to say, we started to see that you were promoting men's night there. So let me do this. I can share the sound by. Well, Restream doesn't want me to show all these fantastic things you did, including wearing your underwear on the outside of your pants.
Well, you know,
much good stuff going with this.
Friend of me, any me. All these just wanna be a mini me. All these just wanna be a mini me. All these just wanna be a mini me. Friend of me, any me. All these just wanna be a mini me. All these just wanna be a mini me. All these just wanna be a mini me. Friend of me, any me. All these just wanna be a mini me. All these just wanna be a mini me. All these just wanna be a mini me. Friend of me, any me. All these just wanna be a mini me. All these just
go-to. Trying to get it worldwide, global. Looking like a show, you been killing this is go-to. Skrilla, the whole man killer. Life so free, can't no man kill 'em. Came from the bottom, was a broke man, get up. Still move like 10 man with no fam with them. Boom, pardon me, I get hectic. I survive through the wreckage. You should go look for the exit. New sheriff in town, I get a little reckless. Missed the memo, go check the message. I ate then came back for seconds. I ain't seen your fake little necklace. Lifestyle